Good evening. I'd like to open the August 8th, 2024 meeting of the Marin LAFCo or Local Agency Formation Commission, and it is 6:31. We are at the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority Meeting Room, 1600 Los Gamos Drive, Suite 355 in San Rafael. And so I'm calling the order. And Madam Clerk, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Chair Kohler,
I'm here.
Vice Chair Rodoni, Commissioner Caius, Commissioner Lucan,
Here.
Commissioner Murray,
Here.
Commissioner
Recording in progress.
Commissioner Chu,
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Hilliard,
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Burke, Alternate Commissioner Stephanie Moulton Peters.
And I just want to note for the record that Steve Berto told me he might be a few minutes late.
Okay.
So he'll probably be cruising in here any minute now.
But before you go, since Supervisor Rodoni is not present, his alternate Supervisor Moulton Peters will be voting tonight.
Excellent.
Alternate
Well-
Commissioner Smith.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
We've met quorum.
Okay, excellent. And are there any requests to remove or rearrange items on the agenda? Seeing none? Okay, it's public open time. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on the current agenda. All statements that require a response will be referred to staff for reply in writing or will be placed on the commission's agenda for consideration at a later meeting. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. There's no one in the room, so is there someone on Zoom?
Yes, we do have one person who's raised their hand on Zoom, Virginia Chang, and I'm going to apologize for mispronouncing your last name.
No worries, it's Karali.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Virginia Chang Karali, and I am one of the special district representatives on San Mateo LAFCo. I'm running to be your special district representative for the coastal region on the Cal LAFCo board. And I'm honored to have the support of San Mateo LAFCo and have their confidence as their nominee for the Cal LAFCo board. I was hoping to attend your meeting in person tonight, but unfortunately, a family emergency has prevented me from attending in person, so I'm very sorry about that. I have the privilege and honor of serving on 2 special district boards in San Mateo County, the San Mateo County Harbor Board of Commissioners and the Menlo Park Fire Protection District Board of Directors. My professional background is in financial research and investments and as a former senior director at the NASDAQ stock market. I've also been involved with advocacy work for my 2 elected boards and for nonprofits such as the California State Parks Foundation Board, on which I served for 12 years. Cal LAFCo has a wonderful opportunity to play a bigger role in advocacy at the state level, especially when the need for collaboration is greater than ever as our local communities deal with housing, transportation, public safety, infrastructure needs, essential services, and the like. This is one of the reasons I would like to serve on the Cal LAFCo board. And as a fire board director and a harbor board commissioner, I understand the breadth of coastal issues from wildfires, which affect the entire state of California, to maritime issues for infrastructure needs and local development needs for California's fishing industry, and equally important, farming and agriculture, which are big parts of the district that I represent on the harbor, the San Mateo County Harbor Board. So today I just wanted to just simply introduce myself to you and to let you know that I'm proud to be a candidate for the special district representative of the coastal region for Cal LAFCo. And if you have any questions, to please feel free to contact me. Your wonderful EO, Jason Freed, has my contact information, and I hope to be able to answer any questions should you have any. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Okay, any other speakers on Zoom?
We have no other Zoom speakers.
Okay, I am closing open time. We're moving on to the consent calendar. All items calendared as consent are considered ministerial or non-substantive and subject to a single motion approval. The chair or designee will also consider requests from the commission to pull an item for discussion. Does anyone want to pull an item? Or does anyone have any questions of staff? Okay, go ahead.
As I was not at the last meeting, do I abstain from the entire consent calendar or just the minutes?
No, you can actually vote on minutes. And actually you are the alternate and both of your members are here, so you don't vote tonight either which way.
Good, thank you.
And usually if you've read the minutes, you can vote on them even if you aren't there. Okay, are there any members of the public wanting to comment on the consent calendar?
I see no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay.
Move the consent calendar. Second.
Okay. All right, so that was Commissioner Murray, seconded by Commissioner Lucan. Madam Clerk, can you do a roll call vote, please?
We don't need to do a roll call.
Oh, okay, I forgot.
Actually, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, that measure passes unanimously. And I want to welcome Mala. Thank you for joining us. Sorry, I didn't acknowledge that at the beginning. Okay, we're moving on. We are moving now. We're moving on to our public hearing items. And this is approval or of resolution 24 I'm sorry. I'll get this. 24-03 annexation of 2 Hanson Road, Novato, 146-061-14 into Novato Sanitary District, LAFCO File 1384, with waiver of notice, hearing, and protest proceedings and finding it exempt from CEQA pursuant to state CEQA guidelines, section 15319. Okay, who's doing the staff report? Oh, Claire, excellent.
This was a very straightforward one. It might look familiar because this was the emergency OSA we ratified at the last meeting. They're officially connected and this is their formal application. They submitted it very promptly and got everything to us very fast. All comments received were in support or neutral. And that's the gist of it.
And just one thing for future is we know the acronyms, but it's sometimes we do have members of the public. So it's a good idea to first say it's an out of service agreement.
Okay.
So thank you, Claire. Excellent report. Any questions of staff? Commissioner Murray?
Just so 3 points. One, I noticed that it's an emergency. I also agree with Barbara on the acronyms. So generally, as you drive from the staff reports, you write it out completely and then bracket it and then you'd use it from there. So I didn't see within the staff report of the documents what the identified emergency is.
The emergency was at the last meeting we dealt with the emergency. That was, they had a failed septic tank. And so they needed to connect to a system immediately. And since they were close enough to a sewer line, we authorized that emergency connection I should say, the chair and I worked together to get that done and then was ratified at the last meeting. And so today it's no longer an emergency situation. We're just doing a regular application and approving them so they can be permanently annexed into the district and have service from now until the end of the district's existence.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think maybe just note that within the.
Well, I think you weren't here at the last meeting. You were? Oh, okay. Well, we, and also remember they had a year to submit all their documents, so they were very fast. Thank you.
Okay, and then dual annexation,
It's inside the city of Novato, so there's no dual annexation needed.
okay. And then just the Novato sanitary staffer, did they sign this or on our documents, or is there a letter or email from them accepting?
Yeah,
this?
we as we do with all applications, we send out a form. They return the form to us, and as Claire mentioned in her staff report, it is that no one objected, and Nevada Sanitary approved it because they already had approved the emergency connection as was, so they were fine with it as well.
Okay, very good. I see the contact in the documents. All right, that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff? Are there any, so I'm opening the public hearing. And are there any members of the public that are on Zoom since no one is in the room?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, let's bring it back to the commission. I'm closing the public hearing. I think it's time for a motion. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move approval of the resolution.
Thank you. Would somebody like to second that?
second.
Okay, so that was Commissioner Lucan, seconded by Commissioner Caius, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, now we're on to the big one. Approval of multi-regional services municipal service review. And there's a number of separate items we'll have to move through. But Jaren, I believe you're doing the staff report.
Just so you were, while there are a number of items that are on the agenda, you can do them all as one large approval at the end. You don't need to vote on them individually.
Oh.
You can, if you do a motion that says you approve all items, that is acceptable as
So
well.
it could be A through G.
Correct.
All right, well, that's good to know, because that'll save us a few minutes. Yes, let's, Commissioner Murray.
Commissioner Fuller, thank you. I think you did this, but you've opened the public hearing for these.
I haven't
items.
opened it yet
Yeah.
because we haven't opened the public hearing yet. Right now, we have questions of staff.
Got it. All right, thank you.
This evening, staff is bringing to the commission the final draft of the multi-regional services MSR, as well as resolutions for the SOIs, the spheres of influence for each of the agencies encompassed, and additions to the work plan. The public comment time ended for this at the end of June. During that time, we did receive some written comments from two of the agencies involved, as well as two commissioners. Most of the edits that were made were small language edits. The two that I do want to draw attention to from the commission are the edit that was discussed at the last meeting in the recommendations regarding MMWD and Marin Open Space District, and that recommendation, making it more the onus on MMWD, as well as the addition of a recommendation for North Marin Water to submit an application for the detachment of the Marshall East Shore area in conjunction with its application to detach the Inverness Public Utilities District area should they desire to do so, which was expressed in a letter from them following their original comments. You will see all of that in the matrix. That was included for all the public comments that were submitted. The 4 additions to the work plan were submitted to you in your packet as well. So staff's recommendation this evening is that the commission approve the final draft, as well as the recommended sphere of influence updates, as well as the 4 additions to the work plan. For spheres of influence specifically, everything is being reaffirmed except for we are establishing a sphere of influence for the first time for CSA 31. That somehow just never took place when it was created back in the 90s. And then we are going to amend the North Marin Water District sphere of influence, as you will see in the attached map to that document. So I will turn it back over to the commission for any questions or comments that you may have.
Okay, any questions of staff? Alternate Commissioner Hilliard?
I'm really interested in this one in particular because that's Angel Island, and because of the different fire districts that service it, and the county as well. So establishing a sphere of influence, does that go through a process where we can have input? Or is it already done, or?
I would say that your input is right now. So we haven't adopted this sphere of influence yet. This is staff's recommendation for a sphere. And in the report, we state very clearly that our intention of omitting Angel Island from the sphere is to show the commission's intention to work collaboratively with all the agencies involved to try to find a more organized way to provide those services to Angel Island than is currently being done.
What do you think?
Well, point out various staff report, thanks, Eric, about explore the current status and future possibilities of the organization and efficiencies of fire protection services for Angel Island State Park, as well as detachment of the area from Marin County Service Area 31 and or the town of Tiburon. So I think what you're raising is a next step. Is that a correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that is one of the additions to the work plan.
So I think we've got that covered. Thank you both for raising that. Any other questions of staff? Okay, Commissioner Murray.
So just a couple things. One, in terms of formatting the whole packet, it'd be nice to have page numbers. I know this document in particular is page numbered, but when we're referencing things, it'd be nice to say it's on page 3 or 26. So we're all going to.
Can you tell me what you mean specifically there?
Yeah, on the packet. So if you print out the packet, there's no page number other than the document itself. So the entire board packet is not,
Oh, the entire, okay.
is not numbered. So it'd be kind of sequential numbering for the packet. Again, if you have a hard copy and print it out, if someone say is here for the public hearing and is referencing pages and things, it'd be nice to have that. Second item is, it'd be nice for a board level to have a red line. So what changed between last meeting, a draft, and this meeting, a final draft for our review? You wouldn't have to probably explain things as much. It'd be pretty clear on what items were changed or omitted. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the commission have questions of staff? I'd like to open the public hearing. I see no one in the room. Is there anyone on Zoom?
I see no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, well, bringing it back to the commission, if someone would like to make a motion, you would be moving the approval of the multi-regional services municipal service review plus items A through G.
I'll make the motion to approve the MSR and items associated A to G.
Thank you. Would somebody like to second that motion?
Second.
Okay, so we have Commissioner Caius and seconded by Commissioner Chu. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and I forgot to close the public hearing, so I have closed that public hearing. All right, we're moving now. Okay, let's move on to business items. And, oh, I'm sorry. So I'm not going to read what's the discussion there, but I imagine that item 6, discussion and possible approval of items related to the Cal LAFCo annual conference. Is this for you, Jason?
Yes, correct. So at our last meeting, we had a discussion about the nomination of Cal LAFCo board members and nomination of Cal LAFCo annual awards. There were no interest at the time. I left it on the agenda simply in case anyone wanted to change. For the board of directors is the special district seats and the county seats. So, excuse me. So if anyone wants to change their mind, they can, but otherwise I will move on to the nomination of voting delegates. I was informed like 5 minutes.
Before you
Yeah.
motor through this, let's make sure that nobody wanted to
All right, Ted.
speak on items A or B. Seeing none. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
So moving on to nomination of voting delegates, that was left over. There was discussion about who could actually attend. About 5 minutes before the meeting started, Commissioner Murray informed me that he is able to attend. I will be attending. So you have a choice of how you want to select your voting delegates. You can select one person as a voting delegate and the second as an alternate. So I would recommend that you put the two of us in those 2 seats. Normally the tradition is the commissioners get to vote and I become the alternate when there's only 2 of us.
Commissioner Murray.
I just want to indicate that I think it's important for Marin LAFCo to be represented there. If anyone has an interest of going, I'm certainly willing to allow them to take that spot for a board commissioner. But otherwise, it sounded like we didn't have any interest.
And just there's only me and no other city rep here, but it's the Cal City's annual conference. So it conflicts with that. And it is at Tenaya Lodge in Yosemite. So it's a bit of a hike, but if anyone's interested, including alternate commissioners, and we appreciate Commissioner Murray, I would love to go, but it's really not a good time for me.
Yeah.
I would suggest that we consider what EO Fried suggested, that we have Commissioner Murray be the voting delegate and have Jason be the alternate voting. So any questions of staff or,
I'm happy to make that motion.
well, let's just see if there's any public comment on this item and love that.
No hands are raised on Zoom.
Okay, let's bring it back to the commission and Commissioner Lucan.
I'd happy to make that motion.
Okay. And so we have Commissioner Lucan first, second Moulton Peters, all in favor? Aye. Any, oh, thank you. I missed that. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And I want to say I went a couple of years ago and it was a wonderful conference. And unfortunately, I happened to go to the restroom during the voting. So luckily we had Jason. I was gone for all of 5 minutes and Jason voted because I missed by a second. So thank you, Commissioner Murray, for going. Appreciate that.
So I went last time and I found it very helpful. So thank you very much. But someone else should go this time. I'm glad. And you were the one who showed me around and I appreciate that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
there are commissioners that go almost every year from other LAFCOs and you do learn a lot, but it is, a commitment of time. Okay, let's move on to discussion and possible approval of the new contract with Davis Farr for auditing services for FY 25 through FY 29. Jason, you take it away?
Sure. So in front of you, earlier on the agenda, you may have noted we approved an audit and for the previous fiscal year and approval to do the next one when it occurs. What you have in front of you is that we approved was the last year of that agreement. I recognized earlier last year, actually at the Cal LAFCo conference, that our contract was going to be coming up. And what we had done last time when we did this contract is we actually piggybacked off of the Southern California LAFCos. They had done a joint RFP, had gotten some good pricing, and we had come in unofficially behind them and stole their pricing points and were able to hire Davis Farr at the time. So I went to those Southern California LAFCos and said, hey, are you doing the same thing? They talked about it and determined that they would not let any non-Southern California LAFCos join their RFP. So I decided to put out word to other LAFCos, hey, anyone else want to do a joint RFP? And we got interest from 10 different LAFCos. That got whittled down to 5 who actually participated in the RFP by the time we got to that point in the process. We issued it. We had we had 4 bids come in, and Davis Farr provided the best services for us as well as the best cost point for us. It was actually the next closest bid was $12,000 more to do an audit, and considering that we will be paying $10,000, that basically means we get a free audit if we go with Davis Farr over any of their competitors over the course of the 5 years. So my recommendation to you today is to use the sample contract that BBK gives us for contracts with consultants, and Davis Farr has agreed to use that, and to approve a new contract with Davis Farr for fiscal years ending 25 through 29 for auditing services.
Along with saving money, I'm assuming we're very happy with their results, which
Yes.
we've used them for the last audit we just approved. And then as part of that approval, we went forward to approve them moving forward with 23, 24, correct?
Yeah, they've always been very good. They're very quick and generally expedient. There was one small issue with this last audit where there was a new GASB requirement, and it caused me some heartache. So it took us a little bit longer to get through that audit because of that new GASB requirement. But we did make it through it, and I'm perfect. We'll be perfectly fine, I think, using them in the future.
Okay, and was that an issue on their end or that we didn't understand?
It's a brand new GASB requirement, and I think that there was a misunderstanding of how to interpret it. And so they had to go back to the GASB people and get some clarification
Okay.
on it.
All right, other questions of staff? Commissioner Murray? Okay,
Thank you,
you're
Chair.
next. You're next. We've got Commissioner Murray first.
Thank you, Chair Caller. Jason, just remind me, each time we hire an accounting firm, is it a 3-year or 5-year max term?
What my goal is to do 6-year terms, to be honest with you. We're doing a 5-year term because all of the other LAFCOs that we partnered with on this RFP needed services now. And so they're taking year one. We're skipping year one because our current agreement is better than what we're getting out of the new agreement. So we're lengthening that one. So this next one is only going to be a 5-year agreement. Traditionally, you'd want to have a 6-year agreement because there's state government code that deals with, you can only have the same auditor, different from audit firm, but the same auditor for 6 years. So you generally do those in 6-year cycles. But luckily Davis Farr has multiple auditors in their firm. So we will switch from one auditor to another one when that 6-year cycle hits for us.
Okay, thank you for that correction.
Okay, alternate Commissioner Smith?
I was curious about the contract you mentioned. You said it's just a form provided to us by whom? And-
Our legal counsel, which is Best and Krieger BBK
okay.
for short.
Okay, just said, I was concerned it was a 5-year contract, which is a lengthy one, so.
Well, it is a multi-year agreement that we are getting in with Davis Farr. But we're using the sample agreement that our legal counsel gives to us to do these types of contracts.
And Mala, our attorney, is on Zoom
Yeah.
from BBK.
So
Okay,
there's no reason for further review of it. That was really. my
Correct. Yes,
question.
correct.
Okay, great.
thank you, Commissioner Chu.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm kind of like out of place on this because of the agenda. I'm going to tie in, the audit policy that we have that we'll be talking about that document later. The EO and I had a discussion about, the exact wording in the policies and procedures. And there is a slight ambiguity there, but nothing that can't be resolved, because we're going to be entering into a 5-year contract. Specifically, auditor can refer to the firm or can refer to the individual. And then there is a slight variation on, say, best practices. EO mentioned that there is a portion that's specific to government. If we were to put that in there so that there's a specific reference, for example, then we would know exactly, what policy that we're following.
Okay, but since we are taking that up later, are you comfortable with this contract right now?
Mhm.
Because Larry comes to us from the Federal Reserve, so he has quite a backing behind him. Thank you for bringing that up. And we may not, if you have specific wording when we get to that document, we could probably change it or we could do a follow-up.
Yeah, and as a matter of clarification, I'm not supposed to have my employer name, so now I have to say that whatever I say here is on, my
Correct.
personal opinions and does not represent the Federal Reserve.
Okay. I was just trying to point out that you come with a wealth of financial knowledge, which probably most of us don't have. Thank you, Larry. Okay, so do we have any other questions of the commission? Are there any members of the public on Zoom?
We actually have 0 members of the public now on Zoom.
And Mala, did you want to speak to anything about the contract?
No, I was just going to say, to address one of the commissioner's concerns, there is a provision in the contract that we won't need to use, but if you desire, it has the ability for the commission to terminate the agreement by providing 10 days notice. So even though it is a 5-year contract, should you desire to terminate earlier, you could.
Thank you, Mala. Okay, so I'm bringing it back to the commission. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I can move that we approve the contract with Davis Farr.
I'll second.
Okay, so that was Commissioner Chu, second, Commissioner Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, that matter passes unanimously. Okay, now we're moving on to discussion and possible changes to the policy handbook.
So before I give my staff report, I always like to yield to the chair of the committee, Commissioner Chu, if you want to make any comments, and then I'll get into the meat of it. And there is one small amendment we're going to need to make to what was presented in the packet. But I
Okay,
wanna
and
first yield-
just before he does
Yeah.
that, just for folks who haven't been here, the committee is comprised of Commissioner Chu, who is our chair, Commissioner Lucan, and myself. Okay,
Okay, just to briefly discuss or introduce, what it is the policy and policy committee, personnel and policy committee did. There were several cleanup items where things were proposed by, staff and as we went through our meeting, we did some cleanup items ourselves, and those are primarily in sections, 1 through 3. There is a more substantive discussion on some of the things associated with, say, for example, a change in policy related to reserves for our legal fund. And also there is still an outstanding discussion on how we want to appoint our chair for the year. Should there be term limits? We've had that discussion in previous meetings. So we came back with a general recommendation, and that's the language you see there. But we also recognize that didn't have the opportunity for the commissioners to chime in on that, since we did have a lot of different viewpoints on that. So I'll just turn that over to EO for staff report.
Well, just maybe one thing, what was decided in that group was that rather than rotating the chair every year, there would be a 3-year kind of, and that would be the longest somebody could serve as chair. And then it would basically revert back to the process that we've been following. So it doesn't mean that this chair is going to go another year, but that's the possibility. So Jason, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So as was mentioned, when I first started this, we are putting up on the screen for you. We had a very quick turnaround from when the committee met to when, and unfortunately, can you change that blue? Yeah, thank you. We had a very quick turnaround from when the committee met to when we had to get the agenda packet together. And in doing so, we staff inadvertently put in language that maybe didn't properly reflect what the committee did. So what we're going to be doing is proposing what you see on the top part is what is currently in the packet for the election or for the emergency OSA work. What we are suggesting the change be is, can you highlight it in a different color so they can see, or at least where that mouse is there? Yeah, that's perfect. Just leave it like that. Or get rid of that part there if you can. All right. So yeah. So what we're changing is the executive officer in the top part, it says shall inform the chair or vice chair of the emergency situation. What we're looking to change it to is the executive officer shall inform the chair or vice chair if the chair is not available. We didn't quite capture that correctly. So that is the language that we would suggest that when you're doing the approvals today, you do it with that following amendment to that section.
And just maybe not everybody knows all the details, but this was dealing with the out of service agreements and how we dealt with emergencies. So I'm not sure that context was provided. So that's what the group came up with.
And as far as the rest of them, I could sit here and go through each one individually and tell you what we did, but I think that it's all in the packet. I would prefer if you have questions just to yield to the questions rather than trying to go through each item individually.
Okay, so questions of staff? Okay, I see alternate Commissioner Smith. Press the button on the
Yeah,
bottom.
no, I did. I was curious about the new policy and your determination of a legal reserve at $50,000 because other LAFCOs are in the range of 50 to 135,000. I mean, I think the idea of a reserve is a good one, but I guess did you talk to council to say, well, what's going on currently with fees? What could we likely expect in the kind of situation where you want to use a reserve fund?
Very good question, Commissioner. Where we came up with that number was how much we spend on legal counsel over the last few years really has not been above just over $30,000. And so if 50,000 more than covers that. If we look at like even the years when we had a few years ago, we had to deal with a workers' comp issue. That year, our total legal fees was $50,000. So I think what we're doing reflects how we have operated in the past. Like this is not going to be we have a major lawsuit and we're like, this is not going to be that fund that actually deals with the major lawsuit. This is more what the budget committee is looking to do is try and shrink our line item for legal services. And we're building a reserve up so we can capture that money in years where we maybe spend a little bit more than average. We have something in reserves and then we can build that back up over time. So that's where the $50,000.
And I guess how much would you shrink the annual budget number then?
That'll be for the budget committee to decide in April of next year.
Well, I mean, if you're suggesting a policy, we must have a concept of what you
I-
have in mind.
To be fair, I have not sat down and looked at the budget for next year to make that kind of a concept.
Yeah, we have time. And just to be clear, so the budget committee recommended a legal reserve. And as we were doing the policy handbook, that's where we discussed what seemed like a good amount. So it's not perfect, but what Jason's saying, it's very infrequent that we've had this to begin with. But rather than have a big jump in what you see of your normal budget for legal, if there is something like a workers' comp issue, then we're tracking that separately rather than seeing a huge bump in legal.
No,
So
I do understand the concept, and I'm in agreement. It seems like a prudent move. My question is then, the goal was to reduce our budget number each year.
No,
And
it's-
so it seems like the other shoe hasn't dropped. So if you have a reserve fund, then what will you have achieved? Must have.
I think just to clarify, I've been on this commission for a number of years.
Uh-huh.
We've had pretty much nothing that involved going into litigation. So it's not that our normal budget of $30,000 for legal is what we normally spend. Jason's right. We're not going to take up the budget again till April next year. And things could change. I think BBK's rates are changing. But so I don't think you will see a big jump. This is only in the event that something occurs.
I was
So,
looking for a reduction in our annual budget number.
well, it won't be because we normally do not have these additional costs. So that's the difference.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So other questions of staff? Are there any members of the public?
No members present.
Okay, bringing it back to the commission.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, because you also wanted to talk about that other thing.
Yeah, I'm just going to lump that together into just a quick closing comment. You know, this takes care of the policy portion, the policy and personnel, committee's work. We recognize that because work hasn't been done on this document in a couple of years, that there was a lot of cleanup that was done in this first iteration. But there are a lot of other things that we thought could be tightened up. We can actually, reduce the length of the document possibly in some places. So we'll come back to that. But what we're going to be doing next is that we need to review the personnel stuff, and that's going to be determined. We're going to try and schedule that before our next meeting. So thank you to Commissioners Lucan and Chair Kohler in getting us through halfway now.
And I want to thank staff who started out with a really good draft. So really appreciate that, and Molly's work on that one issue that needed some legal tinkering. So would anyone like to make a motion?
I will move the approval of of the changes to the policy handbook
With that one change. just
with the
for-
one change that was communicated by staff.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, bringing it back. Okay, it looks like we're moving on to the executive officer report.
Yes, so we have 3 items on the executive officer report. The first is our budget update. This is our fun time of the year when we have 2 different budgets that we're looking at. Last year's budget has not been finalized yet. There's still invoices and stuff to come in, but what you have is pretty close to what will be the final amount spent. There'll probably be 1 or 2 more invoices that get put on the books for last fiscal year. And that will be done and completed by our bookkeeper once they get a chance to do that. And we have all of our invoices in and we get ready for our next audit. And then we move to this fiscal year's budget, which we have just started. So there's not much in there. You will notice that there are no agency contributions yet. The invoices just got sent out about a month ago now. And so we're waiting the books just got closed for last month, and it takes them about 15 days to get us who actually paid for in the first month. So it normally takes 2 or 3 months before we actually get true numbers in that line item. There are always 2 line items that are over budget for this time of the year. We should be at like an 8% spending. Two line items are always over budget. That's our general insurance because we pay our entire general insurance up at the start of the year. I will note sometimes there's small fluctuations. Base will sometimes send a correction to us. Sometimes it's like, a couple $100 and sometimes it's in our favor, sometimes it's not. So that number might fluctuate a little bit, but we'll be under budget. And then the other item is membership and dues because we paid our Cal LAFCo fees. We have CSDA that we will pay for at the beginning of the calendar year. So that one's not completely filled, but we will be under budget for that line item when the year ends. And everything else, except for the conference, is under budget. And that's because we've already started to pay for the August conference. But because there are so few commissioners going this year, by the time the end of the year comes, that line item will definitely be far under budget for us, which is nice. So those are the items that are for budget update. If there's any questions, seeing none. Oh, yes.
In terms of the variations where you have one-time payments that go like the whole year or a single event, are those things that you can put into the budget as what they are in that particular month, so you're not tracking variations throughout the whole year?
I can talk with our bookkeeper and find out if there's a way to print it out differently. This is a report that is done through QuickBooks. And our bookkeeper is much more knowledgeable on that than I am. So I can find out if there's a different way that you want to see reports. We can do that. This has been the one that we've used longer than I've been here. So I've just stuck with the one that the commission's used to. But if you've got different versions, we're happy to look at them.
Is our bookkeeper Alyssa Schiffman
Yes.
from Southern Marin?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Other questions? Anyone else? Okay, let's.
All right, next.
We'll go through all these and then take public comment on
Yeah.
them all.
Perfect. Current pending proposals, you will actually see a lot of new applications sitting on the waiting for approval list. Those are, we had, as you may recall, we've been working for more than 2 years now with Sanitary District Number 2 and Ross Valley Sanitary District on boundary corrections. And we'll get more into it when we get to those applications, but we actually had to wait to do those because as we were researching the sphere of influences, there's some issues with the sphere of influence. And since we're doing the MSR for those agencies right now, it was suggested by legal counsel that perhaps we just hold off on these applications. It's not stopping anyone from getting service or already being serviced by the proper agency. It's more of us getting to the correcting of the maps in the future. And since it's been going on for years now, there's no harm in us waiting to get everything done with the MSR so we can update the sphere of influence, so we can then approve all of the applications that are sitting there in a hold pattern. So we will get to those eventually. Those probably will occur with the approval of the MSR, which is tracking to be beginning of 2025.
You mean finishing the beginning of 2025?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Questions on that item? Seeing none, okay.
Okay. And then our work plan, you will notice that there are several updates in the work plan. We have already started some of the things that you approved with today's MSR around North Marin water. We've already started some of that. Earlier this week, we actually set up a community meeting to talk with the folks out in West Marin who will be impacted by the boundary changes that are being suggested. That meeting will occur on, October 8th, I believe. Yeah, October 8th, because we meet on October 10th. I'm getting those dates confused in my head, but we will be meeting out in West Marin with a panel with myself on it, with Inverness PUD on it, and with the North Marin Water folks on it as well, to talk to folks about what we're doing so they're well aware of it before we get the official application to make any boundary changes. So like that one is already started to work on. For those that were around during the Murray Park annexation into Ross Valley, we're following the same type of pattern that we did on that one, which was hold a community meeting first, make sure the public is well aware of it, with the hope being that if we inform them, that they won't be opposed to it when they actually get this weird mailer that we have to send out saying, hey, we're doing something out here, and everyone gets scared because like, oh my God, what's going on? So we want to get ahead of the game on that. And that's why we're doing the public meeting first before we actually have an application submitted to us. But I know Claire is working with North Marin Water staff to get the application set up and ready. So as soon as that community meeting occurs, assuming there's no major objections or reasons to delay it, we can get that application moving forward.
Should we be coordinating with Vice Chair Rodoni?
His office is well aware of everything that's going on.
Excellent.
So yes, they've been part of the coordination efforts as well.
Excellent.
And then also on that list, just so you're aware, We did get all the information we needed. You may remember from the Southern Marin Sewer Agency's MSR that we did, that there was an issue of an out of service arrangement that was going on between 3 of the agencies. They provided me with all the information as to how it's been working. It falls under the exemption of out of service agreements that LAFCo needs to approve. And based on LAFCO policy, I authorized them to continue to do that work. We were not looking to get in the way of it, but they just had to provide us a certain paperwork, and they were able to do that. So we've actually taken an item off of the to-do list and put it on the completed list. So you'll actually see there's now a new section on our work plan that's completed items. My goal is to have those items stay on there, similar to how we do applications, where when something has been completed, once we complete that fiscal year, the next fiscal year, those completed items get taken off, just so that it doesn't clutter the whole thing up too much, because otherwise you'd end up with a really long document in a few years, and that's not beneficial for us to have, in my opinion. If you want to change that, we're more than happy to do so. And then there's just one other item that you've got in there if anyone has questions on it. One other item I did want to point out. Unfortunately, with some changes that have occurred at the county, we had hoped to have set up a CSA for the strawberry dredging issue that you may recall from the Tiburon Peninsula item. The county has informed me that they believe that Strawberry has the ability to do the dredging and should keep the dredging work, and is not willing at this point in time to make that change. I hope to continue to work with them to maybe get them to change their mind. If not, I'm going to work with the recreation district to see if there's other alternatives. That's something that's going to take quite a while to do, because I'm not sure what a good alternative is to the CSA itself. So I just wanted to make you all informed on that one, that it's on the list, but it's not going to go very far very quickly.
And you would be coordinating with Supervisor Moulton Peters' office?
Yes, I have discussions whenever there's something going on in a supervisor's district. I'm talking with that supervisor about what's going on in their district.
Great.
Even if they're not on LAFCO, I will still have that conversation with them.
Other questions, Commissioner Murray?
Thanks, Chair Kohler. Jason, thank you. I tagged that CSA item as well, or potential CSA. So in terms of dredging, there's federal designated waterways and there's local. We worked with Belmarin Keys and looking at inherent laws that they could bring forward, such as parking enforcement. And Santa Fe seems to have multiple locations where there's dredging issues. So I'm wondering if maybe looking at this at a county level, rather than each siloed area kind of having similar issues or problems. And I'm not necessarily saying that LAFCO needs to drive that for better governance, but that might be interesting at the Marin level, and then as well as when we're at Cal LAFCO, basically chatting around and seeing if anyone else has kind of struggled with this and what they've done. I'd say like Ventura or some of these other locations.
Okay.
Okay, other questions of staff? Any public comment on this item?
We have no members of the public present.
Okay, you don't need any action on this, correct? Okay, any commissioner announcements and requests? I see none. Okay, we are adjourning to the next meeting, October 10th, 2024 at 6:30, and it is 7:19.